Megan, the woman I had trusted with my heart and my children, smiled at me across the dinner table with a daring glint in her eyes, a look I had never seen before. It wasn't playful or loving. It was dangerous, electrifying, and terrifying all at once. "I want to try something," she said casually, like it was nothing, like it would change nothing. But her words hit harder than any betrayal I could have imagined. In that instant, I realized that trust, once broken, doesn't merely crack, it shatters. And the woman I had built my life around wasn't the partner I thought I knew. She was something else entirely, audacious, reckless, unafraid to destroy what we had for a night of reckless pleasure. That night, everything changed. I thought our life was perfect. The kind of life people post about on Instagram: smiling children, a cozy home, and a marriage that seemed unshakable. For almost 10 years, I poured myself into my family, believing that love, trust, and routine were enough to shield us from the world. Megan, my wife, was beautiful, charming, and clever. She had that effortless way of making friends, making strangers like her instantly. And I loved her for it. But maybe I loved her too much, without noticing the cracks forming beneath the surface. We had 2 children, Eliza, 8, curious and bright, and Brandon, 6, full of energy and laughter. Our weekends were filled with soccer games, family dinners, and bedtime stories. Life wasn't perfect, but it felt safe, predictable, comfortable. And yet, one evening, as I sat on the couch scrolling through emails, Megan approached me with that look I had learned to recognize over the years. It was a mixture of excitement and determination, like she had been rehearsing her words in front of the mirror all day. "Jake," she said softly, sitting beside me. "My friends, they invited us to something this weekend." I didn't look up from my screen. "Oh yeah? What kind of something?" "It's not your usual get-together," she said, her voice almost teasing. I frowned. "What does that mean?" Megan leaned closer, her eyes locking with mine. "It's a swingers party." For a moment, I thought she was joking. I laughed nervously, trying to hide the surge of panic rising in my chest. But she didn't laugh. Her smile was calm, self-assured, almost daring me to react. "I'm serious," she said, crossing her legs and leaning back. "We've been stuck in a routine, Jake. This could be exciting. New. Fun." I stared at her, struggling to process what I was hearing. "You mean sleeping with other people? Together?" "No," she said, shrugging. "Just me. It's harmless. Just for fun. My friends say it strengthened their marriage." My mind reeled. Strengthened? By sleeping with strangers? How could she even suggest such a thing, as if it were nothing? "I don't want that," I said firmly. End of story. She smirked, a slow, cruel smile that made my stomach churn. "We'll see about that," she whispered, almost mockingly, before turning away. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. The woman I had loved, the mother of my children, was capable of crossing a line I didn't even know existed. The storm had begun. The next few days were unbearable. Megan didn't bring it up every second, but the way she moved through the house, the sly smirks, the casual mentions of the party, they were constant reminders of the tension building between us. Every time I looked at her, I saw a woman who had already decided to step into a world I couldn't comprehend. She'd talk about her friends, the fun they had, and the way it brought excitement back into their lives. She made it sound harmless, even glamorous, like some kind of adventurous getaway, but I knew better. One evening, as I tucked Eliza into bed, she lingered in the doorway, leaning against the frame, her voice deceptively light. "Just try it," she said. "One night. What's the worst that could happen?" I froze, holding my daughter's hand a little tighter. My heart pounded. "Megan, no. You don't understand. This isn't just one night. This is destroying everything we've built." She rolled her eyes, a movement so sharp it cut through the quiet of the room. "Jake, you're being ridiculous. Relax. Stop acting like this is the end of the world. It's just a little fun. No one gets hurt. No one gets hurt." I echoed, voice tight. "You're talking about sleeping with strangers. In front of me? Or worse, without me?" She shrugged, leaning casually against the wall. "It's not like I'm hiding it. I might even film it, if it helps you understand. Maybe you'll see it's nothing to stress over." My hands clenched into fists. The audacity, the sheer brazenness of her suggestion, it was shocking. The woman I trusted, the person I thought would never humiliate me, was openly planning to mock our marriage. As the days passed, I noticed the little changes. Megan started dressing differently at home, more alluring, checking herself in mirrors, tossing subtle glances my way that were meant to tease, to test. It was a calculated performance, and I couldn't tell if it was for me or for herself. The confidence in her step, the smirk that never left her lips. It was both infuriating and terrifying. Finally, the night before the party came. The children were at my mother's house, safe from the chaos I could feel coming. Megan got ready in our bedroom, slowly, deliberately. Every detail of her appearance screamed seduction. Black dress, heels I hadn't seen in years, hair perfectly tousled. She moved as if rehearsing for a scene, for a camera that might not even exist. "I'll be back late," she said lightly, glancing at me with that same daring smile. "Don't forget your camera." Camera. The word hit me like a punch. She planned to record this. My mind raced. Anger mixed with fear, spinning into a dark clarity. If she actually went through with it, if the videos existed, they could be proof. Proof of betrayal. Proof I could use. I forced myself to stay calm. "Fine," I said finally, masking every ounce of my fear. "If that's what you want, go ahead." Her eyes narrowed slightly, suspicion flickering. I offered a casual shrug. "Maybe I'm just tired of arguing," I added, letting the silence hang between us. She didn't respond. She left, heels clicking on the hardwood, a sound that seemed to echo the growing storm in my chest. And as the door clicked shut, leaving the house eerily quiet, I realized that our life as we knew it was over. There would be no turning back after this night. The house was empty and silent, the children away, and I sat in the living room with my drink, heart pounding, mind spinning. Megan had left hours ago, but I could still feel her presence in the room, like a shadow of the chaos she was about to unleash. I tried to imagine what she was doing, who she was with, and each thought tightened a knot in my chest. Her friend's house was just a few miles away, but to me, it felt like a universe apart. A universe where our vows meant nothing, where laughter and pleasure replaced trust and loyalty. Hours passed. I kept glancing at my phone, every notification making my stomach drop. Then, finally, around midnight, my phone buzzed. Megan had sent a single message. "It's just as fun as I promised." My hands trembled. Fun. She called it fun, and I knew exactly what that meant. I couldn't stop myself from imagining the scene. Megan laughing, touching someone else, playful whispers, and her eyes sparkling, not with love, but with excitement, freedom, and something dangerous. She moved through the night like she was performing, her confidence daring the world to judge her. And the audacity didn't stop there. A second message arrived, almost mocking. "You really should be here. Or maybe I'll record it for you." The idea made my blood run cold. She was bold, fearless, cruel even. Not only was she betraying me, she was flaunting it, showing no shame, no hesitation, like this was a game. I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark, imagining every movement, every laugh, every flirtatious glance she gave the strangers surrounding her. It was as if she had transformed into someone else, someone I didn't know, someone who used her charm as a weapon. And yet, amid the rage and despair, a dark thought formed. If she really recorded herself, if the videos existed, I would finally have undeniable proof. Proof of her contempt, her betrayal, the casual way she mocked our marriage. I could finally take control. The night dragged on. My phone buzzed again, had to leave early. "But you'll love the surprise I left for you." The message was simple, but it hit me like a hammer. She wasn't just playing, she was daring me to respond, to show that I was powerless. When morning came, I felt hollow. The images of the night, her laughter, her confidence, her reckless audacity, were burned into my mind. I knew the videos would be the final, undeniable confirmation of everything I had feared. And yet, in that emptiness, a sense of clarity settled over me. If she wanted to flaunt her betrayal, I would use it. I would protect myself and our children. I would make sure she faced the consequences of her choices. The next morning, Megan returned home. Her hair was messy, her makeup smudged, and her dress wrinkled as if she had spent the night in some chaotic whirlwind. But she carried herself with that same smug confidence, like nothing had happened, like she had pulled off a great performance. "I told you I'd have fun," she said, tossing her bag onto the couch with a flourish. "See? Nothing to worry about." I didn't reply. My mind was already racing. Slowly, I reached for her phone, my hands steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. I plugged it into my laptop, heart pounding as the first video files began to load. Every second confirmed my worst fears. Megan's laughter echoed across the screen, flirtatious touches, whispered words, her casual, fearless disregard for what we had built together. She wasn't ashamed. She wasn't hiding. She was proud. I felt hollow. Each clip tore another thread from the life we had shared, a life I had thought was unbreakable. Yet, amid the despair, something shifted in my mind. Clarity. Control. This evidence wasn't just proof, it was leverage. I carefully saved every file to a secure drive, triple-checking everything. I couldn't let her see my reaction yet. She thrived on control, on testing boundaries. If she knew I had a plan forming, she would twist the situation, make it even harder to handle. When I handed the phone back, she lounged on the couch, scrolling through something else, clearly mistaking my silence for surrender. "Hope it was worth it," I said, my voice low, calm, and dangerous. Her smile faltered, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. "What does that mean?" she asked, trying to mask it. "You'll see," I replied, turning away. The next steps were clear. I had what I needed. Legal leverage, undeniable proof, a path forward. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a small spark of control. Megan had crossed a line she couldn't take back. And now, finally, it was my turn to set the rules. By the end of the week, I had consulted with an attorney. The moment I handed over the video evidence, the dynamic shifted. Megan thought she had the upper hand, that her casual betrayal would slide off me like water off a duck's back. She didn't understand that her arrogance had sealed her fate. Her lawyer tried to spin it, claiming it was a consensual choice, that we both had agreed to explore new experiences. My attorney dismantled that lie in minutes, presenting the raw footage as undeniable proof of betrayal, audacity, and disregard for family. The court didn't hesitate. Custody of Eliza and Brandon was awarded to me, along with a clean financial split. Megan, who had flaunted her actions with such pride, was left stunned, powerless, and forced to confront the consequences of her recklessness. Megan didn't take it quietly. She called, pleaded, and at times begged, her voice shaking, trying to twist the narrative, trying to guilt me into mercy. But I had seen the truth. I had the evidence. I wasn't afraid anymore. I had a plan, and I was executing it meticulously. Moving out wasn't easy. Our home had become a cage of memories, reminders of the life that had been destroyed. I packed a few essentials and moved into a small apartment, modest but safe, a place where I and the children could finally breathe without fear or tension. Even then, Megan didn't stop. She tried to manipulate situations, calling at odd hours, showing up unexpectedly, always with that dangerous combination of charm and defiance. But the law was on my side, and I stayed firm, protecting myself and the children. The battle was exhausting, emotionally draining, but the clarity of purpose kept me going. Every phone call, every text from Megan reminded me of the line she had crossed and reinforced why I needed to ensure justice, stability, and safety for my family. By the time the court proceedings ended, the damage was clear. Megan's reputation was shattered, her network of friends had turned away, and she had learned, painfully, that her audacity carried real consequences. Months had passed since the court decision. Life had begun to stabilize for me and the kids. Our small apartment felt like a haven, a space where laughter replaced tension, bedtime stories replaced fear, and the shadows of betrayal slowly faded. But the past never truly disappears. One afternoon, while grabbing groceries, I ran into Martin, the friend who had hosted that infamous party. He looked uncomfortable, avoiding my gaze, shifting nervously from foot to foot. I didn't think she'd take things that far," he muttered finally. I narrowed my eyes. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then sighed, looking almost guilty. "It wasn't just one guy. There were three." Three. The word hit me like a punch to the stomach. My mind had already imagined the betrayal in broad strokes, but the reality was far more devastating, far more deliberate. The woman I had trusted, the mother of my children, had flouted every boundary, indulging herself with reckless abandon. I walked away without a word, my heart racing, the weight of the truth pressing down. This wasn't just infidelity. It was audacious, calculated, and unapologetic. Megan hadn't just crossed a line, she had demolished it entirely. That night, I told myself I was done living in the ruins of her choices. The kids and I had a new life to build, one grounded in honesty, stability, and respect. Megan's world, once shared with us, was now hers alone to reckon with. Looking back, I realized I was fortunate. I had discovered the truth before losing more of myself to something irreparably broken. The betrayal, though devastating, became a catalyst for clarity. I would rebuild, protect my family, and reclaim peace that Megan had tried to destroy with her audacity. And as I tucked Eliza and Brandon into bed that night, their laughter filling the quiet apartment, I knew that while the past could never be erased, the future was mine to shape. And this time, I would never let betrayal dictate the terms. Life after Megan was quiet, almost painfully so at first. The apartment was smaller than our old house, but it was ours, a sanctuary free from manipulation, betrayal, and fear. The kids adapted quickly, their laughter and energy slowly filling the empty spaces that tension had left behind. Mornings were now a calm routine. Breakfast together, school drop-offs, and little moments of connection that I had once taken for granted. Bedtimes became sacred, filled with stories, hugs, and the warmth of family that Megan's betrayal had once threatened to destroy. But the echoes of the past lingered. News traveled fast in our neighborhood, and whispers of Megan's actions reached even those who had once called her a friend. Her reputation had been shattered. Friends had drifted away, some embarrassed, others unwilling to be associated with the audacity she had displayed. I ran into Martin again, the neighbor who had hosted the party. This time, he avoided me completely, his eyes downcast. I realized that Megan's world had contracted. The freedom and bravado she had flaunted at the party now existed in isolation. There were consequences, and they were unavoidable. For me, life became about reclaiming joy and stability. I reconnected with friends who supported me, invested time in work and hobbies, and slowly rebuilt a sense of self that Megan's betrayal had nearly destroyed. Every small victory, laughing without guilt, enjoying a quiet evening, seeing the kids thrive, felt monumental. And yet, the lessons of the past were never far away. I remained vigilant, protective of my family, and determined never to allow someone's audacity to dictate our happiness again. Megan's choices had caused pain, yes, but they had also forged resilience, clarity, and a renewed commitment to what truly mattered. By the end of the year, the chaos felt like a distant memory. The kids were happy, the apartment was a home, and for the first time in a long while, I felt in control of my life. The storm had passed, leaving behind a stronger, more grounded family ready to embrace the future. It was a crisp autumn afternoon when Megan appeared at the edge of my new life. She hadn't called or texted for weeks, and the silence had been a balm. But now, standing on the curb outside our apartment, she looked desperate, fragile even, far removed from the confident, audacious woman who had flaunted her betrayal months before. "Jake, I didn't mean for any of this," she began, voice trembling. Tears streaked her face, but this time there was no charm, no smirk, only regret. I stepped forward, blocking her path. "You didn't mean for it," I repeated, calm but firm. "You meant it. Every word, every action. And now, you have to live with it." She flinched, as if she hadn't expected my composure, my quiet strength. "Please, for the kids, can't we try again?" I shook my head. "No, Megan. The past is gone. You chose your path. You wanted the thrill, the audacity, the chaos, and it came at the cost of our family, our trust, and your place in our lives. There's nothing left for you here." Her lips trembled, and for a moment I felt a flicker of pity. But it was fleeting. I knew the damage was done. She had taught me one final, painful lesson. Betrayal doesn't just break hearts. It reveals character, or the lack of it. I turned and walked inside, feeling a strange weight lift from my shoulders. The kids were playing in the living room, their laughter echoing through the apartment, vibrant and untainted. That sound, honest, warm, and alive, was my victory. Megan's figure faded in the doorway, shrinking back into the past she had chosen. And in that moment, I realized that while betrayal could wound, it could also illuminate, guide, and ultimately set you free. I had rebuilt what mattered most: trust, love, and stability for my children. Megan had lost everything her audacity had promised, left to confront the consequences of her choices. And I, at last, felt whole again, stronger, wiser, and in control of my own life. The storm was over. The ashes of betrayal had cooled, leaving behind clarity, peace, and the knowledge that some lines, once crossed, defined the rest of your life. I had carved out a new sense of normalcy. Work was productive, friends were supportive, and the quiet evenings spent reading or playing games with the kids became sacred. The chaos Megan had left behind seemed almost like a distant memory, a storm I had weathered and survived. Occasionally, I'd catch glimpses of Megan's world from afar, rumors, whispers, and stories from mutual acquaintances, but they carried no weight. Her audacity had brought consequences she couldn't evade. Friends had drifted away, her reputation tarnished, and the freedom she had flaunted now existed in isolation. For me, life was about rebuilding trust, creating stability, and cherishing the small, meaningful moments that make a family strong. Every bedtime story, every shared laugh, every hug was a reminder that we had survived betrayal and come out stronger on the other side. I realized that while Megan's choices had inflicted pain, they had also forced me to discover my resilience, my clarity, and my capacity to protect what truly mattered. The lessons were harsh, but invaluable. One evening, as I watched Eliza and Brandon play on the living room floor, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The storm had passed, the ashes of betrayal had cooled, and a new chapter had begun. A chapter where I was in control, where my family was safe, and where our happiness was no longer threatened by someone else's recklessness. Life, I understood, was fragile, but it could also be rebuilt, stronger and wiser than before. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of hope, a sense of freedom, and the knowledge that the future, finally, was ours to shape.